So, we are going to talk about this article that, yes, I cut my head open today on the truck. I had to rip out the dash and put a new dash, skin and everything on because it was distorted and warped. That's why, in case people are going to ask, I was just going a little too fast and got carried away and bumped my head. But there's a new article out, and it's by Vice, and it talks about the keto diet. And we've got the new computer up here. And she went ahead and set up her gaming computer for me because she knows I want to get into more like editing and stuff like that, and I want to practice more with bigger programs. So now that my platform is growing and people are starting to subscribe more, hi Jody, I want to start doing more in-depth content or giving you guys better content. So I thought I would cover this tonight, and while you're here, we could look it up together. And you guys can kind of see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So, Nick, I just typed in Vice Keto article. It pops up as the number one article. It says people are still Googling one of the most annoying. So we'll click it. I'm going to spin this around so you guys can see better from the front facing camera. I think anyway. Come on, cooperate with me. There we go. So, people are still Googling one of the most annoying diets of the decade. People who are doing keto never stop talking about doing keto. Yet, what is keto? Is the second most Googled medical question of 2019. It's by Hannah Smothers. According to Google's own data, the second most popular health-related search on its engine in 2019, what is keto? That's a slightly lower ranking than last year when what is keto was the number one health-related question people typed into Google. But it's still disconcertingly high. The staying power of the ketogenic diet, what keto is for, has simply got to be admired. How does a diet that is largely bad for you remain something people still want to know about? And remember, they're still like, let me see if I can zoom in more for you. For some reason, my phone's being really touchy today. Something people still want to know about. And if you notice here, they're actually pointing out the keto diet largely being bad for you. Another article review where they're saying keto is bad, yet it's been helping people reverse type 2 diabetes forever. It's been helping people heal chronic conditions and stuff. Good evening. So, they're obviously pointing out in bold letters here, how does a diet that is largely bad for you remain something people still want to know about? How could it be so bad if it's helping people heal so much and give them a newer, better quality of life? People who do keto talk about it as if they're being paid to. Like most other diets, keto's best advertisers are the people painfully dragging themselves through its rigorous limits. No carbs, no sugar, no alcohol, no joy, etc. Keto followers are supposed to obtain 75% of their calories from fats like meat and bacon. First of all, I'm going to point some things out here that is not true about this. No carbs. People have plenty of carbs on keto. Let's look at this other point here. No sugars. People still have sugars on keto. No alcohol. It's just you keep your sugar low. You keep your carb content low. I will still have some natural sugar sometimes. If there's like 2 grams of natural cane sugar in a product and I want it, I will have it. I just keep my sugar below 20. My carbs below 20, I should say. No alcohol. I still can have vodka. I can still have other types of alcohol, tequila, hard seltzers, things like that. That are not really that big of an issue. No joy. I don't know what all this is. It just seems like a bunch of junk because I'm very happy on a ketogenic diet. Keto followers are supposed to obtain 75% of their calories from fats like meat and bacon. Again, another BS article that completely misconstrues what a ketogenic diet is. And it's terrible the representation these people put out here because that's not even what it is. Nobody says you have to follow 75% fat or 75% of your calories from fats. It can be from 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85. There is a wide range of where a ketogenic diet can fall in, and it's not what this is. The 75% fat is just a standard number people start with, and then sometimes they feel like maybe I need to bump it up to 80. Maybe I need to bring it down to 65, 60 because I have more fat on my body. I don't need to be consuming as much dietary fat and I need better quality protein. This is just another really idiotic article that does not portray the keto diet as what it should be. Um, let's see. Intent, in, Itinerant dieters are inadvertently thrilled by this, maybe because most diets don't afford them any category of food from which they can't, but they can eat anything they want. Or maybe because it's an extremely sharp shift away from fats are evil discourse that dominated the 90s. Yes, I can eat all the cheese I want. May as well be the unofficial slogan of keto, even though eating all the cheese one wants isn't a wise or sustainable choice, and overeating even keto approved foods will still cause weight gain. So far, that is true. Fats are evil is what we used to think, and now we're seeing that there was a period of time where a lot of stuff was bought by government, a lot of stuff was bought by um, big companies and stuff like that to make you believe those things. It was never really medical recommendations outside of people uh, like Ansel Keys trying to make a name for himself. Uh, let's see. Keto is supposed to work by putting the body into a state of ketosis, a sort of shock state where the body starts breaking down stored fats to gain energy. It also works because it limits carbs so severely dieters can't even eat one whole apple. If they properly abide by the rules, the varieties of restrictions diets often work, at least temporarily, because while it's still possible to overeat and gain weight no matter which arbitrary restriction rules you follow, it's simply boring. To eat a lot of limited range of things after a while, even though those things include bacon. Many people who lose weight by following the keto diet might have lost weight by paying attention to what they were eating in general, which is another thing any arbitrary restriction forces them to do. But that wouldn't be any fun at all, would it? It's way less exciting to say no, thanks, to a post lunch cookie than it is to chomp into a wheel of bacon wrapped in cheese. Is this real? While yelling, my diet allows this? Keto was born in this decade and unfortunately will probably not die within it. January is just around the corner, and many people will likely continue to type what is keto into their little Google search bars, looking for a way to lose holiday pounds and probably that probably don't exist and that don't need losing. Keto was not born in this decade. A ketogenic diet has been around for years and years and years, but this article, with the way this person wrote this, is saying that this decade is when keto was born. A ketogenic diet has been around forever. Even the Atkins diet was a form of a ketogenic diet, and then you modified it as you went, and it gave you some of that variety of food back as time progressed. It was a state of ketosis you were initially put in to get the weight started, and then you started adding small amounts of other foods back in until you could gain complete control of your diet. That was the Atkins diet. Everybody makes it out to be something that it wasn't, but it is a form of a ketogenic diet. We can even go back into like the 60s and stuff when the bodybuilders back then were just doing milk. They were doing types of milk, meat, water, salt, cheeses, and they were getting shredded and jacked. Yeah, some of them were probably taking steroids, but keto has been around forever. So for them to say that it was born in this decade would be a complete lie. This article so far has been nothing but complete BS. Okay, so I'm going to flip the camera back around. I don't understand what the problem is with these news companies and the magazine writers and the blog posters and stuff like that, because they almost feel like they have to get this instant gratification from creating this fictitious article on why keto is bad, or why it was born in this century, or why this, or how all these fats, or this is the amount of fat percent that you have, when it's complete BS from the beginning. There's a range of fats that you can have. Some people like 60% fat. Why would you like 60% fat? Maybe you're a person that's really, really large and you have a lot of adipose tissue. Maybe you have a lot of visceral fat sitting around your body. What ends up happening when you have a lot of visceral fat sitting around your body is your body's constantly seeing this leptin signal, right? I'm full, I'm full, I'm full, I'm full. This adipose tissue just sits all over the place all the time, and it's constantly getting this leptin signal from its fat stores saying, you got plenty of fuel, you got plenty of fuel. But what ends up happening after so long of seeing the same signal over and over and over again with let's think about another hormone that does that to us. Can anybody think of another hormone if your body sees it constantly all the time, where it starts to desensitize itself to it? Does anybody know what that is? What hormone, chronically produced over and over and over again, and your body seeing it produced over and over again, creates problems in the long run? There's a main one we always talk about with keto. And if you watch this video on replay, cortisol could be one. There's more. Think about insulin. Insulin being produced all the time makes you insulin resistive. And when you become insulin resistive, you are more than likely on the verge of becoming a type 2 diabetic. You more than likely are going to have to start getting treated with types of insulin from the doctor or something like that, because now your body's not even receptive to what it's making. So now you're going to have to fight this struggle. Well, what happens if you have adipose tissue all over your body all the time, and your body's constantly getting this signal from leptin? Okay, I'm full, I'm full, you have plenty of fat, I'm full, I'm full, I'm full. You start to become resistive to it. And your body can't actually interpret, okay, you got a lot of fat on your body right now. Why are you eating? You don't need to be eating right now. You've got plenty of fuel stored all over the place. Well, if you're constantly overweight and you constantly have these fat stores all over the place, your body's going to get to a point where it says, you know what, I don't even know how to interpret this anymore. So it's only going to see ghrelin, the ghrelin hormone. It's going to be like, well, I'm hungry, and it will stop interpreting leptin so much. So how can you try to fight that leptin resistance? You fight that leptin resistance by types of fasting. Intermittent fasting, prolonged fasting, extended fasting, whatever it may be. And then your body starts to see, oh wow, I'm start chomping down on this fat, and as you're getting smaller, you're producing less leptin signaling. Your body actually starts to become more receptive to the signaling, and it starts to see that, oh, wait a second here, we're onto something. Now I can start regulating and moving things around. Same thing when it comes to cortisol. If your cortisol levels are high all the time, how is your body ever going to learn when to turn on different types of responses? Cortisol, being a stress hormone, releases histamine. CRP levels go up. Your body starts trying to fight different types of inflammatory reactions. And if it's going on all the time, your body Your body doesn't continually want to see this stuff all the time. If you are in a stressful job, if you're having problems with your children, your loved ones, your workplace, whatever it may be, maybe you're in a battle with your family or something. We're around the holidays right now. A lot of people get stressed out around the holidays. And when you see these types of things going on all the time and you deal with these types of things every single day, your stress levels are through the roof. The holidays are supposed to be a time of enjoyment, spending time with each other and stuff like that, but we know that's not what happens. A lot of times people get stressed out. Their cortisol levels are through the roof, their anxiety is through the roof. What happens when your cortisol levels go through the roof and your anxiety is through the roof? Your body starts releasing different types of histamines to try to deal with that type of stuff. And then on top of that, you're eating 2, 3, 4 day old food because Thanksgiving just passed and Christmas is coming up. And those foods that sit in the refrigerator for multiple days end up becoming more of a histamine fuel for your empty garbage can. So now you've got stress filling up this histamine garbage can. So just picture this empty garbage can like Chris Masterjohn, PhD doctor. Um, Picture an empty garbage can, and you're already stressed out as it is, and that thing's half full, 3/4 full. And now you're eating food that's been in the refrigerator multiple days. You're eating highly processed foods. You're eating a ketogenic diet. A ketogenic diet is highly, um, let me retract that. A ketogenic diet is full of histamine type foods. We love avocados on a ketogenic diet. Everybody promotes avocados on a ketogenic diet. But avocados are one of the highest histamine foods. We love different types of fresh sausages and things like that and aged cheeses. Those are high histamine foods. So now we've just taken that garbage can and we filled it up from 3/4 to full, or if not overfill. Now you're itching all the time, you're shortness of breath, you're stressed out, you're getting headaches, you can't sleep at night, you're arrhythmia for your heart, you're either speeding up or slowing down too much, you don't know what's going on anymore. All this stuff all the time. So there are pros and cons to everything. So constantly producing cortisol all the time and constantly being stressed out all the time and having histamine constantly dumped all the time, your body doesn't know what's going on anymore. So then you think, well, I'm on a keto diet, I'm okay. Well, look at half the food you eat on a ketogenic diet. They're full of histamines, even the healthy ones. Phytates, oxalates, salicylates. They're full of all these anti-nutrients and stuff like that. You cannot win for losing. The thing that a ketogenic diet does for people that other diets don't do is it brings the sugar out of their diet. It's not the end-all be-all diet. It's not the ultimate diet to be on. It is a diet that can get you somewhere, that becomes a way of life. But, this is a question that often comes up all the time. Why do you keep calling it a ketogenic diet when it's a way of life? Adapt your, or ask adapt. Just let a speaker come on. And the title of his section was A Keto Diet is a Way of Life. Or keto is a way of life, not a diet. That is incorrect. That is the most incorrect statement I've ever seen in my life. Now, before people get upset, here's why. The definition by its very self, take all the emotions and the feelings out, take all the snowflake stuff and everything else and throw it out the window, and hear what I have to say. The definition itself is a pattern or habitual eating by an animal or a human. A ketogenic diet is that much a pattern and a habit of doing something over and over and over again. This is what we do. That's the very principle about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So to take the feelings and everything and throw it back in and say, oh my God, it's a way of life. You can't say that. No, it's not. It's a diet. A diet that can be adapted as a way of life and continued for the rest of your life if you so choose to. But at the end of the day, it's still a diet. Clean cut and dry, no snowflake stuff, no feelings hurt, no none of that. That's what it is. So when you take this diet that's supposed to be so very healthy and stuff like that, and you look at the very nutrients that's in them, how many times have you been to another keto channel and they talk about snacking on walnuts and peanuts and almonds and all this other stuff? I'm going to say stuff to you that you've never heard another keto person say, or that you may not even want to hear, but it's worth listening to just so you have it in the back of your mind. There are so many anti-nutrients, oxalates, phytates, and things in a ketogenic diet, histamines, that it's unreal. if you look at the very complex of the nuts, the walnuts, the pecans, the almonds, all these things, peanuts and stuff that people eat, look at the omega ratios. What does science say about inflammatory markers and stress and things like that? When you get stressed, your inflammatory markers go up, correct? Well, if you eat foods that are not balanced in the right omegas and stuff, guess what also goes up? Your inflammatory markers. One of the things that you don't want to go up. Show me a nut that's well balanced in omega 6 and omega 3. Show me one. I can go on the computer right now. If you want me to, I'll show you right now. There is not a nut. I think pili nuts is the closest thing to a well balanced ratio. The omega 6 ratios in nuts in general are through the roof. And omega 6 is supposed to be one of those inflammatory omegas in excess that cause too much inflammation. But we tell people on a ketogenic diet, oh, you're new? You want to snack on something? Well, why don't you grab yourself a handful of almonds? Why don't you grab a handful of Brazil nuts or something like that? Well, we're telling people to eat the very things that are imbalanced to begin with. We have charts that say this is acceptable on keto. This is beautiful, and this is keto food. Well, we just got done talking about phytates, oxalates, salicylates, anti-nutrients, all this other stuff that increases your inflammatory markers. But now let's look at something we snack on that's supposed to be heart healthy. It's supposed to be a great thing on a ketogenic diet. If you look at the very principle of what science says, your body can take omega-3 and turn it into omega-6. Your body can take 3 and 6 and make what it needs to, omega-3, 6, and 9. But your body having too much omega-6 in itself is very inflammatory. So why would you eat foods that are already imbalanced to begin with? It's going to throw that very inflammatory marker through the roof. How is that supposed to be healthy? If you see a nut is 23,000 times higher in omega-6 than it is, if you look at the profile of a nut and you see that it's 23,000 times one part of omega-3, it makes no sense to me for people to continue to do something like that. But they do it anyway because the big doctors say, and the big keto people show them making their 6-ingredient bulletproof coffees every morning and stuff like that. Because they do it, we got to do it too. Or because they say it's okay. No, let's stop looking at let's stop listening to what they say and let's see what the science actually says. Where are you getting this information from? If science says too much omega-3 or too much omega-6 is very inflammatory, yet we go around telling everybody that these are good foods to snack on and have in your diet. And oh yeah, they're good healthy fats, are heart healthy and everything else. But when you look at the very profile of them and what the science says, it doesn't agree with a lot of things that happen on a ketogenic diet. Look at broccoli and spinach and things like that and how much anti-nutrients is in those very things. But yet we want to be on a ketogenic diet. The very principle of why keto works, not only is the ketones being present for brain fuel and stuff like that, and the high amounts of fat to sate your appetite and get all the sugar and stuff out of your diet, it's the ketones and the fact that sugars are not there. There's nothing that magical about a ketogenic diet in the grand scheme of things. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love being on a ketogenic diet. I love being ketone fueled. My brain wakes up. But it's not the end-all be-all diet. It just isn't. When you look at how you're going to figure out exactly what triggers you, when you look at a diet at the end of the day and you say, I want the utmost eliminating diet. I want minimal, the very, very 0, what can I thrive on? And then add things back in to see what affects me, would be a carnivore diet. And I'm not trying to be a bandwagon jumper or anything like that. A carnivore diet is the best baseline diet to start with to see what types of foods you can put back into your diet that are going to cause issues for you. Last year I had about 40 people throughout the year that wanted to start fresh. I got a little group on Facebook, and I'm not promoting it. If you join, you join. If you don't, you don't. It's called Carnivore Reset. And it's for people that want to try things like that. I'll go through a phase with people like 2 weeks on nothing but meat, and then let's try adding avocado in and see how it affects you. Oh, you're starting to itch? you got a little, you're like look like rosacea is starting or something like that, or maybe you're really agitated at night when you go to sleep. Okay, then let's pull the avocado back out. Go a couple days, clean that stuff out of your system. Let's add something else in. Oh, you want to try some aged cheddar? We'll add some aged cheddar in. Oh, you dealt with that fine? Okay, this is a new food that you could probably have on your diet that won't cause issues for you. Let's pull it out temporarily and go a couple days. Let's try something different. Let's maybe try a small bowl of like maybe 2 ounces of spinach or 3 ounces of spinach. Chop it up and make yourself a little balsamic vinaigrette dressing or something like that you've already tried that you can have or something, and then put it on your spinach and let's see. And it's a step in the right direction. And then maybe take two of those things and put it together and see what happens, because maybe individually they don't react the same as they do together. It's something that you have to figure out on your own individual journey. These articles and stuff like this are ridiculous because they completely pit the keto diet and they make it seem like it's just complete trash and it's something not healthy for you and stuff, when it can be very healthy for you. But to say that it's followed the way that they say it has to be 75% fat, there's nobody that ever said it has to be 75% fat. That's just a good, decent amount of fat to start with as a new person, and then you can figure out where you want to go from there. Or you can be like Dr. Eric Westman, which I adore. Dr. Eric Westman is by far the best ketogenic doctor I've ever seen talk about anything because he's the most knowledgeable. He's been doing it the longest. Um, Next to Dr. Ron Rosedale and Stephen Feeney and Jeff Volek. I like him because he's real. And he says, you don't have to count anything. Just eat keto approved foods and keep your carbs under 20. And that's probably the best bet for you. If you're an athlete or if you know you can have more, then have a few more carbs. What's the big deal? But you don't have to spend your whole life tracking and counting things and all this other. Figure out what works for you. Figure out the foods that agree with you. Figure out what types of food you like and you can have and you can't have, and then you deal with it. It's your journey. It's individually your journey. And then you have all these other people that come along and they want to say you got to eat this meal plan and you got to eat this much fat and you got to drink this much water and have this much salt. It's all a bunch of baloney, homie. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to do 75% fat. These are all people that have come along from back in the day and they've wanted to create something to make it their own, and they found that it will work for some people. And when it does work for some people, those people are new subscribers to them that adore them for making it work for them. When little did they know, they could have followed the original way from the beginning. They didn't put restrictions on anything. They didn't make you think that you had to do all this tracking and all this other stuff and putting it in your MyFitnessPal and download this app and buy this product and this subscription. You don't have to do any of that. It's all, how you doing? It's all just a matter of what you want to do with your life and quit following like a bunch of sheep. There's no need for any of that stuff. And the sadness is this article doesn't give any credit to the ketogenic diet at all. It gives no credit to it at all. It just says that it's the worst diet, and they don't understand why it's the second year in a row one of the most viewed things on Google. I'll tell you why, because it works. It works, but there's a lot of people that don't get over some of the issues that they have, and they do turn to a carnivore diet. I've had a lot of vegans pop up lately that say, hey, thanks for everything. I've come from a vegan diet. I've been following your stuff for a while, and I'm now on a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet, and I feel like I'm 1,000% better. I never knew that what I was being fed by the vegan community is a bunch of BS, which it is. I mean, what are you gonna do? You can't stop the vegans from doing what they're doing. They're falling apart as it is. So it's a matter of what you want to do with your life, not following the keto cult type stuff, keeping the keto police out of your life, and remember that I often get a kick out of the people that want to correct me on my YouTube channel and my social media platforms when they say, oh yeah, Dr. So-and-so said that. I don't care what Dr. So-and-so said. You can get that stuff out of my stream, off my pages. I don't follow a Dr. So-and-so at all. Get it and go. I don't want nothing to do with none of that junk. You take it back to Dr. So and so's page and tell him I said I don't care. Doesn't matter. Uh, it's when it comes down to it, as I said, you have to figure out. You keep a journal, maybe write down the foods that agree with you, that don't agree with you, and you just move from there. It's simply that's what it is. There's you can follow a low histamine diet. I did a histamine video not too long ago where I talked about the aged cheeses, the aged meats, the vinegars, pickles, and things like that that have been in vinegar for a while, something that's been in the fridge for a while, um, sauerkrauts, fermented foods, things like that. Those are all things that are really high in histamine count, and it's just a matter of you know, there are plenty of lists on Google. You can Google low histamine foods or low food list. You know, like if I went on here right now. Let's just look at low histamine foods. Some foods that are low in histamine include fresh meat, freshly caught fish, non-citrus foods. Citrus foods seem to be higher in histamine. Eggs, gluten-free grains such as quinoa and rice, dairy substitutes such as coconut milk and almond milk, fresh vegetables except for tomatoes, avocados, spinach, and eggplant. Cooking oils such as olive oil is a phenomenal type of oil for low histamine. And then let's look at what types of food are high in histamine: alcohol, aged cheeses, canned, pickled, and fermented foods, smoked products such as sausage, ham, bacon, or salami, legumes such as chickpeas, soybeans, and lentils, vinegar, many prepared meals that are already pre-prepared for you that you find in like the frozen section and stuff like that at the store, just because these foods have been sitting. The best thing that you can do for your body is eat a fresh food and fresh meat every single day of your life. But when you constantly let things sit and you're getting these pre-prepared meals in boxes and bags and stuff like that, that's the biggest problem. What foods are natural antihistamines? Bell peppers are phenomenal for building up that DAO in your system. DAO is the breakdown. It's one of the breakdown factors for histamine. Foods that are higher in copper and B6 help build that DAO up to break down the histamine to get it out of your system. So, let's see here. People with allergies may find relief by using natural plant extracts and foods that act as antihistamines. Antihistamines are substances that block histamine activity in the body. Bell peppers, broccoli, cantaloupe, cauliflower. And this is where it gets tricky. It says on here citrus fruits would be an acceptable um, antihistamine. But if we look up higher, it says okay, so it says non-citrus foods would be a good low histamine diet. But then when you look down here to antihistamines, it says citrus foods would be a great food for being an antihistamine. This is why in that video I did last, I talked to you guys about nobody really knows what's going on with this histamine stuff. You can try to talk as much as you want to, and these people, these doctors get up in front of the screens and this and that and everything else. What they do know is DAO is, I always get it mixed up when I try to explain it. Okay, so you can buy DAO, Umbrellux, DAO histamine, Thorne Research has their own histamine. Yeah, I mean that's, you know, organs, meat, tallow, bone broth, things like that would be probably one of the best ways to start to see if you have a histamine intolerance. Diamine oxidase is what DAO is, and DAO is also known as histamine or histaminase histaminase is an enzyme involved in the metabolism, oxidation, and inactivation of histamine and other polyamines, such as petrosine, spermidine in animals. The highest levels of DAO expression are observed in the digestive tract and the placenta. People with leaky gut, people that have uh, metabolic syndrome, things like that, they're going to be the ones that are probably the most affected by histamine intolerances. What you need to know about DAO. How can I increase my DAO levels? Will taking DAO supplements regularly increase my DAO? And will DAO supplements cure me of histamine intolerance? Which DAO supplements are for me? And what side effects can I expect from DAO supplements? Histamine intolerance or sensitivity is caused by a buildup of histamine in the body to a level that exceeds the amount required for normal function. And that's when I was talking to you earlier about that level of histamine that's normal, that naturally occurs in the body. And then when we add high histamine foods in, and then we try to function normal, and we can't because we're just overdoing it. The excess of histamine results in symptoms that resemble allergies. And that's why I was saying if you keep your foods low histamine, low stress, when allergy season comes around, you can deal with that stuff much easier. It's not as effective. Your eyes aren't as red. You're not sneezing all the time and stuff because you're able to break this extra histamine down from the allergies because now your DAO doesn't have to, it's not just fighting the little bit of histamine that's in the system off. Now the extra amount that your body can produce and work up can fight the allergy histamine as well. But when you're eating high histamine foods and you're getting allergies in, and plus you're stressed all the time and your body's producing its own histamine, you've got this trifactor here that's just compounding and it snowballs. And then your skin's breaking out. You're getting, your sleeping issues, muscle soreness, out of breath, arrhythmia. There's all kinds of things that can go on. Um, Under normal conditions, excess histamine is broken down by specific enzymes, especially diamine oxidase, DAO. The products of histamine breakdown are then excreted via the kidneys and urine. Usually, this will ensure that histamine levels do not exceed the person's limit of intolerance, the level above which the symptoms develop, which I've already explained what that is. However, when the DAO is insufficient to deal with the excess, histamine levels rise and typically histamine sensitivity symptoms develop. So what ends up happening is you'll get interactions with your lungs, your heart, your skin. There are things that pop up, your muscles. Um, DAO acts on histamine both inside and outside the body. Within DAO is found principally in the kidneys, thymus, placenta in pregnant women. When histamine levels inside the body become excessive, DAO and other enzymes called histamine L-methyl transfer HNMT break down the excess. Excess histamine can rise inside the body called endogenous histamine. And that's why I was talking to you guys about eating something that's exogenous, like high histamine foods, adding to the endogenous histamine that's made normally inside your body, compounding, and things get out of control because you don't produce enough DAO to break everything down because you don't really know what you're doing while you're doing it. You don't really have a clue and you don't know what's going on. You just think something's wrong with me when really all it is specifically the type of lifestyle you live with, all the stress, plus the foods that you're eating, and then you're adding them together and your body just doesn't know how to deal with it because it doesn't produce enough enzyme to break all that down. Pregnant women, I'm sure the article might touch on this too. Women that get pregnant, they have to produce twice the amount of DAO so they can have those pickles and things, and when they get the cravings while they're pregnant, because your body naturally goes into a protective state, and it says, wait, there's not just you here, I've got something growing inside me as well, and it's a human life. Now I'm not just producing enough DAO enzyme for just you, I have to produce enough DAO enzyme to not only protect you but that child that's inside you as well. So your body elevates that production rate to a higher level. So not only is it protecting you, it's protecting that child as well. And then all of a sudden you have the child, your body knows it's not pregnant no more, there's nothing growing inside, and it goes right back to its normal way of doing things, and then you're breaking out again. You've got all these issues and stuff that you're dealing with, and you're like, wait a second, when I was pregnant, I was fine, but now I've got all these issues that have shown up. No, it's probably issues that you were dealing with before, but temporarily through that 9-month phase, your body was producing more DAO because it knew it had to produce more DAO because there was something else inside you that needed to be protected. As the DAO encounters histamine in these substances, it breaks it down, thus preventing this external source of histamine called exogenous histamine, which I was just covering from food, things like that, alcohol, aged foods. When DAO is adequate and functioning efficiently, almost 99% of the exogenous histamine is broken down within the digestive tract, lumen, and removed before it can even enter the body. It is estimated that only about 1% of histamine from the source actually enters the circulation. When DAO is deficient, far more histamine enters and builds up within the body, thus causing the skin conditions, the headaches, the problems sleeping, things like that. DAO supplements are designed to increase the DAO in the digestive tract and enhance breakdown of histamine within the contents of the digestive canal. Unlike supplements of vitamins, minerals, and other things, DAO does not enter into circulation and therefore will not increase the amount of DAO inside the body. DAO must be taken very shortly before meals as it has a short half-life, the time it takes for the enzyme to become inactive. Its effect is limited to the degree of breakdown of histamine in the dietary components which it is mixed for a fairly short as the food passes through the digestive canal. Obviously, the amount of histamine entering the body from dietary sources can be significantly reduced by following a histamine-restricted diet. A low histamine diet plus supplemental DAO should reduce the amount of exogenous histamine entering the body to almost nil. It is very important to understand that the supplemental DAO and histamine restricted diet will not reduce the amount of histamine produced within inside the body. The effect of this histamine must be addressed by other methods of control such as antihistamines, allergy management programs, mast cell stabilizers, and other appropriate therapies depending on the source of the endogenous histamine. So mast cells, basically, I'm not going to be perfect at explaining this, but inside a cell, the cell will dilate. And when it dilates, it allows for white blood cells to come in. When the white blood cells come in, it's supposed to start fighting off bacteria and things like that. Well, if you have a cell that won't dilate, or if you have issues with mast cells or leaky gut or digestive issues in general, you're going to have high histamine intolerance. So things that never affected you before may affect you now. Things that you're eating that you think you're okay with may seem like you're not okay with. And this can come out of nowhere. Just because people don't understand histamine like they think they do, and a lot of these doctors don't understand it either. This is a great breakdown of what it actually is. Your DAO production is individually characteristic to you. The amount produced inside each of your organs in your body is determined by your inherited genetics. As with most enzymes in your body, there's no way that you can increase the amount that your body manufactures. So with each person being different, food is going to affect each one of us differently. So the amount of DAO that I produce could be less or could be more than you, and you have a problem. So maybe I really have more of a problem than you, and I just don't know that. That's why I think it's so crucial for people that think they actually have histamine intolerance to go to a carnivore diet and then add some things in to see, is this an issue that I have with this? maybe for a day, 2, 3, 4, and then if an issue pops up and you know, hey, the other thing that I've changed is this one type of food, take it back out of your diet. I don't want to keep beating up the subject here or whatever. If you want to check out this article, you can go to Foods Matter, Dr. Jonja's Guides to Histamine Intolerance, Dr. Janice Jonja, a world expert on histamine intolerance, has published 2 books on the histamine intolerance: A Beginner's Guide to Histamine Intolerance and Histamine Intolerance, the Comprehensive Guide for Healthcare Professionals. So she not only wrote a book for people like us, she also wrote a book for doctors to follow. So she must be, I don't know, pretty decent with this. Anyway, let's close this out. 45 minutes is too long to be on live anyway, and I'm not rambling, but I wanna be able to talk to you guys about some things that pop up. Well, who else is covering this right now? Who else is telling you that a ketogenic diet is high in histamines? Nobody talks about that. A ketogenic diet is very high in histamines, and it causes a lot of problems with people. It's just people don't talk about it. There's not a lot of honest keto people out there because they don't want you to hear that the ketogenic diet is not the end all be all diet. The keto diet is not the most perfect diet to be on. There's a lot of faults with the keto diet, but it's a diet that can get you started in the right direction. It's a diet that can start to help change your life and stuff like that, which changes thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives. There's a lot of high histamine foods. Maybe I can create a ketogenic diet for histamine intolerance. Maybe that'll be my next video. I need to do a video on therapeutic ketosis because there's a lot of people asking me lately on what is therapeutic ketosis, and I need to do that. Anyway, let's close it out because my phone's beeping at me telling me my battery's low and it's going to probably die any minute now. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Should I do a video on a therapeutic diet for ketosis first? Or should I try to come up with a low histamine ketogenic version? Maybe it'd be my own version that I can add to everybody else's thousands of virgins, whatever, of the virgin ketogenic diet. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, I'm going to get off here. Y'all be blessed. Take care.